breaking news! With new jokes, new sets, and new surprises, Season 2 of Mad is starting off with a bang! Oh, well, so much for starting off with a bang.
Mad Magazine, an influential and widely imitated piece of satirical media who is known for pushing the landscape of all things satire, whether on the aspects of entertainment and popular culture, to politics and public figures, to movie parodies and American culture throughout the decades. Whether you realized it or not, Mad has influenced some of the biggest comedians and celebrities, and has been credited as a source for creating some of the best shows and movies too. The impact Mad has had on the public is revolutionary, influencing the likes of Watchmen, Monty Python, Mystery Science Theater 3000, and even freaking Jerry Seinfeld.
Do you know who I am?
Mad is known for their satire in pop culture, but they've also paved way into having their own original creative ideas too. Like their mascot, Alfred E. Newman, who has been in multiple numerous covers on their magazine, and is pretty much a staple and primarily associated with the Mad brand.
Get me Kaputnik and phone bone. I want to see the drawings for the new kids on the block.
There's also their most famous comic strip, Spy vs. Spy, a wordless strip portraying two spies constantly at war with each other. It's a simple premise, with each spy using a variety of booby traps to mess with the other, either between a victory or defeat. But it's not just a comic strip. Sure, they've also had animated appearances to go along with it, but it's much more than that. It's a crash course in slapstick comedy, distilled into its most chaotic, explosive form. For over 6 decades, these two rival agents have been battling in a war of wits, schemes, and cartoonish violence, embodying the pure essence of what makes slapstick timeless and universally entertaining. But why these two? What makes these beak-like creatures so iconic after all these years? What has made them stand so tall with their outrageous traps and schemes? Well, we really need to go back a couple of years before 1960, before the magazine even existed. The origins of the slapstick genre usually dates back to ancient times, but really got its boost during the 1910s, with the likes of Charlie Chaplin over here. During the silent film era, Chaplin has been known for his physical comedy, and has perfected what it means to be an actor without the use of dialogue. The exaggerated physicality and visual gags is what makes these classic films stand out, as the absurdity and chaos just unfolds before your very eyes. Over-the-top actions, unrealistic scenarios and situations, the humor is derived from sight rather than just usual dialogue. Now, over time, slapstick comedy has evolved over centuries, but its core elements of physical humor and exaggerated actions remain consistent. Shows like The Three Stooges to modern shows like Mr. Bean really encapsulate the meaning behind physical comedy. But the art transitioned to cartoons as well, with some of the most iconic characters to ever been created, with the likes of Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, to MGM's Tom and Jerry, to Walter Lant's Woody Woodpecker. But the biggest of this genre has got to be the Looney Tunes, with the cartoon violence of multiple characters being harmed in many situations, while also showing the brilliant writing on how these characters interact with each other. Bugs Bunny vs. Elmer Fudd, Sylvester vs. Tweety, Wile E. Coyote vs. Roadrunner. I mean, these shorts have probably gained tons of admiration from future cartoons, like The Simpsons, Ren and Stimpy, and of course, Spy vs. Spy. Now, Spy vs. Spy was first illustrated and created by Cuban cartoonist Antonio Prohias in 1960. Fleeing from his home country into the US that same year, Prohias went to the Mad offices with prototypes of the Spy vs. Spy strips, and ultimately was hired, with the first strip published that following year. Loosely a parody on the ideologies of the Cold War, the first incarnations of the spies wore shades, but ultimately had very large black eyes, with more proportionally larger heads. With a total of 241 strips completed, Antonio was shocked by the success of his creation, and even lent his creation to other writers and illustrators before retiring in 1995. And how about these spies, huh? The two baddies try to outwit each other in every strip they're in, varying levels of success but never a lack of zaniness. Sometimes one spy's plan goes off without a hitch. Sometimes the other spy has a hidden countermeasure that makes everything blow up in the other's face. Sometimes that spy anticipates said countermeasure and sets up another track to trick the other. It's predictable, yet unpredictable at the same time. Sometimes they'll throw in this woman in gray, also known as Gray Spy, into the mix, trying to add in balance and neutrality to the basic formula. Sometimes the spies will have bosses who give them tasks and punish them for their failures. The strips had a lot of variety in making it seem fresh. Pretty much the unis honest of the Mad world.
Unis honest, unis honest.
The genius of Spy vs. Spy lies in its silent storytelling. There's no dialogue, just visuals, and yet you can perfectly follow each scheme, counter-scheme, and inevitable explosion. The humor is derived from the escalation, the fact that each spy's plan seems logical until the other retaliates in a way that defies reason. It's a perfect example of the genre's reliance on anticipation and payoff. The white spy and the black spy, while sharing the same basic design, represent opposing forces in a comical, exaggerated way. The white spy, often seen employing slightly more elaborate and flamboyant traps, embodies a certain arrogance. In contrast, the black spy typically relies on more brute force methods and sneaky tactics, reflecting a slyer, more cunning approach. These archetypes, though simple, form the basis of their comedic conflict. Their rivalry isn't just about winning, it's about the style and audacity of which they attempt to outdo each other. This duality adds depth to the otherwise straightforward slapstick, making each strip a mini-narrative of contrasting personalities. Now, over time, the franchise would branch off into all sorts of media. You had video games like the 1984 game on 8-bit consoles, and the 2005 remake on Xbox. Boy, isn't it weird seeing these guys into 3D, but they kind of look great for a platformer. This was also the same time when the two spies would appear in live-action segments of Mountain Dew commercials. Again, seeing them outside of their cartoonish element is baffling to see, but they look amazing here. But let's not beat around the bush here. Their most prominent features other than the strips were in animated segments of Mad TV, a sketch comedy back in the 90s rivaling Saturday Night Live, and the Cartoon Network show Mad in 2010. Rough Draft Studios took care of the animation for the 90s sitcom, and the segments still hold up to this day. The animation best captured the strip spirit, bringing the chaotic energy and visual gags to life with fluid animation. Some highlights throughout these segments are the fake bomb drop, the baritone blowout, the basketball game, the house mousetrap, and who couldn't forget the infamous fake shadow bit. They're dark, but insanely clever. The 2010 version takes a more rudimentary approach, looking more like a flash animation. They also seem a bit more rushed than the 1995's more layered segments. The eerie riff playing throughout the segments is a nice touch, but overall I do prefer 1995's better animation, less rushed and more graphic style. But that's not to say that 2010 didn't have charm. And after the first season, Matt decided to make the spies into stop motion, with the studio behind Robot Chicken to animate it, and this is some really good stop motion right here. Slapstick comedy thrives on exaggeration, physicality, and often complete absurdity. It's less about dialogue and more about action, something that Spy vs. Spy takes full pride in. It takes this over-the-top formula and runs with it, crafting intricate scenarios where the humor comes not from what's said, but from the outrageous mechanisms of their traps, weapons, and betrayals. The clean, monochromatic style ensures that every trap, every gag, every ridiculous invention stands out. It's a masterclass in using visual contrast and absurdity to trigger laughter. The escalation of the rivalry of always one-upping each other is a trope in the genre, but the two spies take it to new heights. And it keeps inspiring more and more artists and humorists. From the likes of shoutouts to Seth MacFarlane and Seth Green, this strip stands out as a monument of what comedy can be. There's no language barrier, they keep it visual and wild, and never underestimate the power of absurd escalation. From their humble beginnings from creator Prohias and Mad Magazine to its various media adaptations, the strip has consistently delivered laughter and entertainment. And hey, they might be getting their own movie in the future. There's no official updates, but one can hope, right? Spy vs. Spy still reigns supreme after all these years, continuing to inspire and delight audiences with their timeless antics.
Do you want to be spies like us?
Can we be spies like them?
We've actually resolved our differences.